Do you know what it feels like to be shoved by your own daughter on your 60th birthday? I do. She looked me in the eye, called me useless, and humiliated me in front of everyone I loved. But what no one knew was that, minutes earlier, I had discovered she stole $10,000 from my savings, and worse, had opened a fake account under my name. My own children saw me as a wallet, not a mother. I'm Evelyn. It took one ruined birthday, one shattered locket from my mother, and one hug from my granddaughter to realize I wasn't broken. I was buried under decades of sacrifice. If you stay with me, I'll show you how I stood up for myself, rewrote my will, and built something no betrayal could erase. Because when my daughter screamed, "You're embarrassing us," I held up the bank statement, and my husband, who had ignored me for years, finally stood beside me and said, "It's true. If you've ever been called too trusting, don't scroll. Watch this, before someone else decides you're worth for you." Before I open the next part of my story, tell me something simple. Who's the one person in your family who truly sees you? Leave a comment below. 1, if it's your daughter. 2, if it's your son. Or 3, if it's someone else entirely. I read every comment, and your story might be the one that reminds someone else they're not alone. Let's take the next step together. 60 candles flickered on my birthday cake, their tiny flames dancing like they had more life than I felt. My phone, face up on the checkered tablecloth, stayed dark, mocking my hope that my kids might remember me today. I smoothed my apron, the one with faded daisies my mother gave me decades ago, and adjusted the apple pie cooling beside the cake. The backyard hummed with April's soft warmth, April 15th, 2024 to be exact, and jazz drifted from a small speaker, Ella Fitzgerald's voice weaving through the dusk. My suburban yard, tucked in a quiet Ohio neighborhood, was ready for my 60th birthday BBQ, with red and white tablecloths fluttering and string lights waiting to glow. Somewhere in my dresser drawer, a silver locket from my mother lay hidden, its faint engraving a secret I'd ignored for years. Maybe it held answers I wasn't ready for. I wanted this day to matter. After years of pouring myself into my family, packing lunches, paying bills, mending hearts, I craved a moment where they saw me, Evelyn Harper, not just Mom. My fingers brushed my phone again. No texts, no calls. My chest tightened, but I pushed the ache down, humming along with Ella. "Grandma, where do these go?" Lily, my 15-year-old granddaughter, held a tangle of string lights, her brown eyes bright. Sophie's daughter, she had her mother's sharp cheekbones, but none of her bitterness. Lily loved my stories, the ones about my mother's garden or our old lake cabin, and her eagerness warmed me. "Loop them along the fence, sweetheart," I said, pointing. "Make it sparkle." She grinned, darting off, her sneakers scuffing the grass. I watched her, thinking, at least she's here. Lily's loyalty was a gift, one I didn't take lightly. I arranged the BBQ tables, setting out plates and napkins, my hands moving with the rhythm of years spent hosting. The scent of charcoal lingered from the grill, though James hadn't fired it up yet. My husband, 62 and graying, stood near the patio, phone pressed to his ear, his real estate deals stealing him again. His broad shoulders hunched, and I caught a flicker of regret in his eyes when he glanced my way, a nod to the distance his career had carved between us. I offered him a slice of pie, holding it like a peace offering. He waved it off, mouthing, "Work," and turned away. My smile faltered, but I set the plate down, thinking, family's all I've got, even when they're half here. Footsteps crunched behind me. "Traffic's a beast, Mom," Noah said, my 35-year-old son sauntering in, his leather jacket creased. His smirk hid the weight of gambling debts I'd bailed him out of, debts he swore were behind him. I wanted to believe him, but his late arrival stung, a reminder of his selfishness. "Looks nice," he added, grabbing a soda without a glance at the cake. "Thanks, Noah," I said, my voice steady despite the pinch in my chest. "Sophie coming?" I asked, hoping my daughter might show. He shrugged, scrolling his phone. She's stuck at work, I think. Sophie, 32, hadn't called either. Her resentment, born when I missed her college graduation for Noah's arrest years ago, simmered in her silences. I checked my phone again. Nothing. My fingers tightened around it, the ache spreading. Carla Mendoza, my best friend, slipped beside me, her silver bracelets jingling. At 58, she carried the quiet strength of someone who'd rebuilt her life after her son's estrangement. Her dark eyes scanned the yard, then me. "You deserve better than this, Evie," she whispered, her voice low but firm. Her empathy, rooted in her own family scars, grounded me. I managed a smile, nodding toward the guests, neighbors, cousins, chatting near the grill. "I'm fine," I lied, adjusting a napkin stack. Carla raised an eyebrow but didn't push. I moved to greet guests, my smile a mask, my heart heavy with the thought, was I ever their mother or just their cook? As I poured lemonade, my phone buzzed. My pulse jumped. Maybe Sophie? But it was Noah, standing 10 feet away, texting, "Busy, Mom. Happy B-Day, though." The words landed like a slap, casual and cold, hinting at a deeper neglect I hadn't faced. I stared at the screen, my throat tight, the jazz fading into a dull hum. Guests laughed, oblivious, but Carla's hand grazed my arm, her eyes saying she saw my pain. I slipped to the patio, needing air, and reached for Sophie's purse, left on a chair. I didn't mean to snoop, but a crumpled note fell out, her handwriting sharp. "Mom's too trusting." My breath caught. What was Sophie hiding? The note trembled in my hand, the candle's glow suddenly dim, and I wondered if my family's love was as fragile as those flames. Sophie's note, crumpled in my pocket, burned my fingers, but her scream would soon scorch my heart. Could my own daughter hate me this much? The backyard, bathed in the soft glow of string lights, felt heavier the next evening. Jazz blared louder from the speaker, Ella Fitzgerald's voice clashing with the sizzle of grilled chicken on the BBQ. The scent of charcoal and herbs hung thick, tension rising like the smoke, curling into the Ohio dusk. My silver locket, hidden in my drawer, held an engraving I hadn't dared read closely. Maybe it could unravel Sophie's rage, but tonight I just wanted her here. I stood by the cake, 60 candles gone, their wax hardened into tiny scars on the frosting. My chest ached from yesterday's silence, Noah's dismissive text, and Sophie's absence. Still, I hoped. I'd spent years stitching this family together, bandaging Noah's troubles, soothing Sophie's sharp edges. Surely they'd show tonight. I smoothed my blouse, my fingers trembling, and thought, hurt can't last forever. I sliced the apple pie, offering a piece to a neighbor, my smile tight. Guests milled around, their laughter grating against my raw nerves. Lily darted between tables, her ponytail bouncing, adjusting napkins with a grin. At 15, she was my light, her love for my stories a balm. "Grandma, it's perfect," she said, hugging me quick. I squeezed her back, her warmth steadying me. The patio door creaked and Sophie stormed in, her heels clicking. My heart leapt. She came. Her dark hair was pulled tight, her eyes narrowed, scanning the yard like it offended her. At 32, she carried a bitterness I couldn't place, rooted in that day I missed her college graduation for Noah's arrest. I stepped forward, holding out a plate. "Pie, Sophie?" "I'm here, okay?" she snapped, brushing past me. My hand froze, the plate heavy. I swallowed, nodding, and turned back to the cake, my fingers gripping the knife. "She's here. That's enough." James lingered near the grill, his phone silent now, but his eyes distant. At 62, he wore his real estate stress in the lines around his mouth, regret flickering when he caught my gaze. He hadn't spoken since yesterday's work call, and I wondered if he even noticed my pain. Noah lounged by a table, smirking at his phone, his leather jacket out of place among the casual guests. His greed, masked by charm, gnawed at me. "Time for the song," Carla called, her bracelets jingling. My best friend, 58, moved with purpose, her dark eyes locking on mine. She'd known estrangement. her son once cutting her off, and her presence grounded me. I nodded, forcing a smile as guests gathered. Lily clapped, her voice leading, "Happy birthday to you." Imagine being told you're useless by your own child on the day you hoped they'd finally see you. If you think you know what happened next, think again. But before I take you there, drop a 5 in the comments if you're still with me, because what's coming might just flip the whole story. Sophie's voice cut through, sharp as glass. "You don't deserve a birthday party. You're useless." Her scream silenced the yard, jazz filling the void. She stepped forward, her face twisted, and shoved me. My hip hit the table, pain flaring, and I stumbled, catching myself on a chair. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Noah smirked, his eyes glinting, complicit in her cruelty. James froze, his mouth open, shock rooting him in place. My vision blurred, tears stinging. Sophie's words echoed, each one a blade. Useless. The word carved into me, exposing years of unseen sacrifices, late nights paying bills, tears shed for their mistakes. My hands shook, but I stood straighter, meeting her glare. I'm not useless. Carla was at my side, her hand firm on my elbow. "She's wrong, Evie," she whispered, her voice fierce. "You're more than they know." I nodded, barely hearing her, my eyes on Sophie, who turned away, her shoulders rigid. Lily ran to me, her arms wrapping tight, her voice breaking. "I love you, Grandma," she whispered, tears soaking my blouse. Her loyalty pierced my fog, a lifeline. I moved to clear plates, needing to do something, anything. Sophie's purse sat on a chair, and as I lifted it, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I glanced at the screen. A voicemail from Sophie, recorded earlier, somehow synced from her phone nearby. Her voice hissed, "Mom's too trusting, Noah." My breath caught. Trusting? What were they hiding? I stepped toward the patio, my heart pounding, Lily's hug still warm on my skin. Sophie stood by the fence, phone to her ear, her voice low but clear in the quiet. "She'll never figure it out," she said, glancing back at Noah. "Figure what out?" The jazz swelled, but my world narrowed to her words, the locket's secret suddenly heavier in my mind. Sophie's overheard call last night chilled me, her words, "She'll never figure it out," looping in my mind. But Noah's words, sharp and public, would soon sting worse. Could both my children resent me this much? The farmer's market buzzed the next morning, its stalls brimming with fresh bread and ripe strawberries, the air laced with coffee shop chatter and a spring breeze rustling my scarf. I clutched my wicker basket, the weight of Sophie's shove and Noah's smirk from the BBQ still pressing on my chest. My mother's silver locket, safe at home, hid a secret behind its stubborn clasp, one I wasn't ready to face. Maybe it held the key to my family's unraveling, but today I needed to breathe. I paused at a stall, fingering a loaf of sourdough, my thoughts drifting to the years I'd bailed Noah out of gambling debts. Thousands of dollars, late-night calls, my savings drained to keep him afloat. I told myself it was love, but now, with Sophie's note and voicemail burning in my memory, it felt like betrayal. My fingers tightened on the basket, hurt clawing at me. I gave them everything. Why isn't it enough? "Morning, Evie," Carla Mendoza called, her silver bracelets catching the sun. My best friend, 58, wove through the crowd, her dark hair pulled back, her eyes sharp with the wisdom of someone who'd survived her own son's estrangement. She fell into step beside me, grabbing a peach and sniffing it. "Don't let them dim you," she said, her voice low but firm. Her encouragement, rooted in her own healed scars, steadied me. I managed a nod, my throat tight. We moved to a jam stall, the vendor's chatter fading as I spotted Noah across the market. His leather jacket stood out, his stride cocky despite the debts I'd covered. My pulse quickened, a mix of hope and dread. Maybe he'd apologize for last night, for standing by as Sophie shoved me. He approached, his smirk fading into a scowl. "Mom, you look tired," he said, loud enough for nearby shoppers to glance over. "Guess that's what happens when you don't work like us." His words landed like a slap, humiliation flushing my cheeks. Vendors paused, their eyes darting between us. Noah's dismissal, raw and public, echoed Sophie's scream, both slicing into my worth. I straightened, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. "I paid your debts, Noah, thousands. That's work you'll never understand." My retort hung in the air, sharp, and his smirk faltered, but he shrugged, turning away. Shoppers whispered, and Carla's hand grazed my arm, her nod urging me on. I'm not invisible. Back home, I dropped my basket on the kitchen counter, the scent of coffee lingering from breakfast. The house was quiet, James at work, Lily at school. My heart still raced from Noah's words, but Carla's encouragement echoed, pushing me toward action. I climbed the stairs to Sophie's old bedroom, untouched since she moved out. Her desk held faded photos and a dusty diary, its leather cover cracked. I opened it, my fingers hesitant, and found an entry from 2014, her graduation year. Mom chose Noah over me. She didn't even show. My breath caught. Sophie's resentment laid bare. She'd held this pain for a decade, blaming me for choosing Noah's legal mess over her milestone. I sank onto her bed, the diary heavy in my lap. Sophie's voicemail, "Mom's too trusting," flashed in my mind. Trusting, yes, but not blind. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and navigated to Sophie's linked account, one I'd set up to help her business. My thumb hovered over the screen, then tapped Restrict Access. The app confirmed, account locked. I whispered, "No more free rides." My voice firm, resolve rising like a tide. This was my first stand, small but solid, against the neglect that had festered too long. As I set the diary down, my phone buzzed, Noah's name lighting the screen. His text read, "You're making a mistake, Mom." My pulse skipped. Was he covering for Sophie or hiding something himself? The coffee's bitter scent turned sour, and I wondered what secrets they shared, secrets I'd have to face alone. Noah's text last night, "You're making a mistake, Mom," warned me to back off. But Sophie's diary shook me more. What else had I missed with my children? The attic air was thick with dust the next afternoon, the faint scent of lavender drifting from a sachet tucked in a corner. Boxes towered around me, relics of a life spent raising Sophie and Noah. A neighbor's lawnmower hummed outside, its steady drone grounding me in this quiet Ohio suburb. I sat cross-legged on the creaky floorboards, my mother's silver locket resting in my palm, its faint engraving, "Family First," hinted at a truth buried deep, one I wasn't sure I could face. Sophie's diary entry, blaming me for missing her graduation, still stung, and I needed answers. I opened a box labeled Sophie's School, my fingers brushing old report cards and faded photos. My mind replayed that day in 2014 when I chose Noah's court hearing over Sophie's commencement. His arrest for gambling debts had demanded my attention, and I'd promised Sophie I'd make it up to her. I never did. The guilt gnawed, but her shove at the BBQ, her scream, "You're useless," turned my hurt into a quiet anger. I wasn't just a mother, I was Evelyn, and I deserved to know why my daughter hated me. Footsteps creaked on the attic stairs, and Carla Mendoza's voice called, "Evie, you up here?" My best friend, 58, poked her head in, her silver bracelets jingling. Her dark eyes softened, seeing my scattered boxes. She settled beside me, grabbing a yearbook. "Truth hurts, but it frees you," she said, her voice steady. Carla's own estrangement from her son years ago gave her words weight, her encouragement urging me to dig deeper. I nodded, my throat tight, and handed her a photo of Sophie at 16, smiling. "Found anything?" Carla asked, flipping through the yearbook. I shook my head, my fingers tracing the locket's clasp. Its stubborn lock had always puzzled me, a secret my mother never explained. I set it down, reaching for another box, when Lily's voice echoed from the doorway. "Grandma, can I help?" My 15-year-old granddaughter, Sophie's daughter, stood there, her ponytail swinging. Her loyalty, born of love for my stories and neglect from Sophie, warmed me. She plopped down, grabbing the locket. "Wow, this is pretty," Lily said, turning it over. Her fingers caught the clasp, and with a soft click, it sprang open. A folded letter, yellowed and fragile, slipped out, landing on the floor. My breath caught. "What's this?" Lily asked, her eyes wide. I picked it up, my hands trembling, the words, "To Evelyn," scrawled in Sophie's college handwriting. Fear gripped me. What truth did it hold? I tucked it into my pocket, my voice shaky. "I'll read it later, sweetheart." Carla raised an eyebrow but didn't push. Lily shrugged, sorting photos, her chatter about school easing the tension. I forced a smile, but my mind raced. Sophie's voicemail, Mom's too trusting, and Noah's text swirled, their secrets closing in. I stood to grab water downstairs, needing air, when voices drifted from the kitchen. Sophie and Noah, unannounced, stood by the counter, their heads close. I froze on the stairs, hidden by the wall. "She's too trusting, Noah," Sophie hissed, her voice low. "Keep it quiet." Noah muttered, "She's poking around. We gotta be careful." My pulse hammered, their words a knife. What were they hiding? Before I could move, my phone pinged, a bank alert flashing. $500 withdrawn, linked to Sophie's account. My fingers clenched, anger flaring. Trusting, yes, but not foolish. I slipped back to the attic, my face hot. Carla and Lily looked up, concern creasing their brows. "You okay, Evie?" Carla asked. I nodded, the letter burning in my pocket, the bank alert searing my mind. I thought, I've given them everything. My time, my money, my heart. No more. The lawnmower's hum faded, leaving a silence that matched my growing resolve. As Carla and Lily packed up, my phone buzzed again. Sophie's text glared, "Stay out of my business, Mom." My jaw tightened. What was she protecting? The Lockett's letter weighed heavy, its truth weighting, and I knew I couldn't hide from it much longer. Sophie's text, "Stay out of my business, Mom," ignited my anger, but her letter, hidden in the locket, broke my heart. How long had my daughter resented me? The living room was dim the next evening, candles flickering on the coffee table, casting shadows across my favorite mug, a chipped relic from a local coffee shop. The silence in our Ohio home was heavy, broken only by the faint tick of the mantel clock. I sat on the worn couch, the silver locket open in my lap, its letter unfolded. The words, "Family First," engraved inside mocked me now, hinting at a truth that could shatter what little held us together. Sophie's diary, her shove, her overheard call with Noah, they all pointed to a betrayal I hadn't faced. My fingers trembled, anger simmering beneath my shock. I smoothed the letter, Sophie's college handwriting jagged and raw. "You missed my graduation for Noah's mess," it read. I was invisible. The words stole my breath, tears spilling onto the page. That day, in 2014, I'd chosen Noah's court hearing over Sophie's commencement, his gambling debts a crisis I thought I had to fix. I'd promised her a celebration later, but life got in the way. Her pain, scrawled here, was a decade old, festering into the scream at my birthday BBQ. "You're useless!" I gasped, my chest tight, thinking. I gave her my all. Why wasn't it enough? The front door creaked, and James stepped in, his gray hair disheveled from a late meeting. At 62, his real estate career had etched lines of regret into his face. He paused, seeing my tears, and set his briefcase down. "Evie, what's wrong?" His voice was soft, a shift from his usual distraction. I held up the letter, my hand shaking. "Sophie wrote this years ago. She thinks I chose Noah over her." James sank into the armchair, his shoulders slumping. "I ignored Sophie's pain too," he admitted, his eyes distant. "Work consumed me. Deals, clients. I left you to carry the family." His guilt, rooted in years of prioritizing his career, hung between us. I snapped, my voice sharp. "We both failed her, James, but I'm paying for it." My anger flared, not just at Sophie, but at the years we'd let slip, leaving her to fester. James nodded, his jaw tight, a silent promise to stand by me now. Carla's voice echoed in my mind. "Truth frees you," urging me to act. My best friend's loyalty, forged through her own family estrangement, gave me courage. I grabbed my phone, dialing Sophie's number, my pulse racing. She answered on the third ring, her voice cold. "What now, Mom?" I took a breath, steadying myself. "We need to talk about your letter, Sophie, about graduation." "You're pathetic," she snarled, her words slicing through me. "Digging up the past won't change anything." The line went dead, her insult echoing, evoking a fury I hadn't known I held. My phone buzzed before I could react, a bank alert flashing, $1,000 withdrawn, linked to Sophie's account. My jaw clenched, outrage surging. She wasn't just angry, she was taking from me piece by piece. I stood, pacing, the candlelight wavering. Sophie's letter, her voicemail, Mom's too trusting. And now this theft confirmed a pattern. I wasn't invisible, and I wouldn't be erased. I opened my journal, my pen digging into the page as I wrote, "I won't be erased. I'll face her." My vow was quiet but ironclad, my anger fueling a resolve to protect my worth. The coffee mug gleamed, a small anchor in the storm. James touched my shoulder, his voice low. "We'll fix this, Evie." His support, new and fragile, softened my edges, but Sophie's betrayal loomed larger. Her resentment, born at that missed graduation, had twisted her into someone I barely knew. I thought, did I lose her that day, or was she already gone? As I closed the journal, my hand brushed a drawer in the coffee table. I tugged it open, revealing a forgotten bank statement, its edges curled. My heart stopped. Sophie's name was listed, tied to a $10,000 transfer from my savings. My fingers gripped the paper, the clock's tick, deafening. How much had she taken? The candle's flame sputtered, and I knew the truth was only beginning to unfold. The bank statement trembled in my hands, but my anger held firm. Had Sophie been stealing from me all this time? Morning light filtered through the sterile bank office, its desks cold and orderly, a faint coffee shop aroma drifting from a nearby counter. I sat across from a clerk, my mother's silver locket at home, its empty clasp a mirror to the trust Sophie had broken. Her letter, her scream, her $1,000 withdrawal, they all pointed to a betrayal I could no longer ignore. My kitchen, where I'd found the $10,000 transfer statement last night, felt worlds away, but its moonlight and lace curtains haunted me. I was Evelyn Harper, 60, and I deserved justice. The clerk, a young woman with a tight bun, clicked through her computer. "Mrs. Harper, your daughter, Sophie, transferred $10,000 from your savings over 2 years," she said, her voice clinical. My fists clenched, nails biting my palms. My retirement gone. I'd scrimped for years, skipping vacations, patching clothes to build that nest egg. Sophie's failed business, a boutique that collapsed under her mismanagement, flashed in my mind. Had she taken my savings to prop it up? Anger surged, hot and unyielding as I thought, my future stolen. I left the bank, my steps heavy, the spring breeze outside doing little to cool my rage. James waited in the car, his gray hair catching the sun. At 62, he'd shed his usual distraction, his eyes locked on me as I slid into the passenger seat. "What did they say?" he asked, his voice tight. I held up the printout, my hand steady despite the storm inside. "Sophie took $10,000. Over years, James." His jaw tightened, guilt etching deeper lines into his face. "I was blind, Evie," he said, gripping the wheel. "Too caught up in deals to see what she was doing. I'll stand by you now." His real estate career had kept him distant, leaving me to carry our family, but his vow softened my edges. I retorted, "You're late, but I'll take it." My voice was sharp, but I needed his support, a bridge over the chasm Sophie had carved. We drove home in silence, the Ohio suburbs blurring past. My mind replayed Sophie's voicemail, "Mom's too trusting." And her text, "Stay out of my business." Trusting, yes, but not naive. Back in my kitchen, moonlight streamed through lace curtains, casting patterns on the oak table. I sat, the bank statement before me, its numbers a silent accusation. I opened a drawer, searching for a pen, and my fingers brushed another statement, hidden beneath old recipes. My breath caught. Another transfer confirming Sophie's theft. The paper crinkled, its truth undeniable. I called Detective Laura Bennett, a professional woman in her 50s I'd met through a neighbor's referral. She arrived an hour later, her notepad open, her calm demeanor a contrast to my churning anger. "This is felony fraud, Mrs. Harper," she said, reviewing the statements. "We'll need more records, but this is serious." Her duty-driven focus gave me clarity, my determination hardening. I nodded, handing her the hidden statement, my voice steady. "She stole my future, Detective." I opened my journal, my pen scratching as I wrote, "She stole my future, but not my fight." The words anchored me, my resolve a shield against Sophie's betrayal. James stood by the counter, watching me. "We'll get through this," he said, his voice low. His support, born of guilt for his years of neglect, was new but welcome. I thought, did I give her too much, or did she take my dreams? As Bennett left, promising to follow up, my phone buzzed on the table. Sophie's name lit the screen, her text cold. "Meet me at the BBQ next week. Let's settle this." My pulse raced, the moonlight dimming as her words sank in. Was she planning a trap, or was this her way of facing me? The coffee aroma lingered, bitter now, and I knew the BBQ would be more than a gathering. It would be a reckoning. Sophie's text about the BBQ showdown lingered, a promise of confrontation. But Noah's rage broke something irreplaceable. Could I still save my family? My living room glowed softly the next evening, the phone screen casting a harsh light across my journal. Crickets chirped outside our Ohio home, their rhythm steady against my racing pulse. The backyard patio's string lights, dim and flickering, waited for tomorrow's BBQ. My mother's silver locket, once a symbol of family, now lay in pieces on my coffee table, its broken fragments mirroring the trust Sophie and Noah had shattered. Their secrets, her $10,000 theft, his complicity, fueled my anger. But I, Evelyn Harper, 60, was ready to fight for my worth. I clutched my journal, scribbling notes for the BBQ, my pen digging into the page. Sophie's group chat post, "Some moms forget their kids' struggles," loomed in my mind, a deflection I'd counter with proof of her theft. My anger, stoked by her letter and Noah's market insult, burned steady. I thought, I've given them my life. They won't take my voice. The front door slammed and Noah stormed in, his leather jacket creased, his eyes wild. At 35, his gambling debts had twisted him, his greed raw. "Sign over the house, Mom," he demanded, looming over me. "You're stuck in the past." His voice boomed, shaking the quiet. I stood, my hands steady, and said, "That house is my life's work, Noah." He sneered, grabbing the locket from the table. "This is nothing," he snarled, smashing it to the floor. The pieces scattered, glinting like my broken trust. My breath caught, outrage flaring at his cruelty, the locket a gift from my mother now desecrated. I stepped back, my voice low. "Get out, Noah!" He laughed, cold and sharp, but left, the door rattling behind him. My knees buckled, and I sank to the couch, gathering the locket's fragments, tears stinging. The cricket's song felt distant. My world narrowed to this loss. My phone buzzed, pulling me back. The family group chat lit up with Sophie's post. "Some moms forget their kids' struggles." My fingers flew, uploading the $10,000 bank statement, my words sharp. "You stole from me, Sophie." James, awake downstairs, added, "No more lies." His support, born of guilt for his career-driven neglect, fortified me. At 62, he'd finally seen my pain. His text, a shield against Sophie's manipulation. The chat went silent, her deflection crumbling, and my resolve hardened. Lily's text pinged privately, her words a balm. "You're stronger than them, Grandma." My 15-year-old granddaughter, neglected by Sophie, loved my stories and saw my heart. Her loyalty deepened our bond, a light in this storm. Carla Mendoza called, her voice firm through the speaker. "Keep fighting, Evie," she said, her own reconciled estrangement fueling her encouragement. At 58, she knew this pain, her words urging me on. I nodded, though she couldn't see, and whispered, "I will." I opened my journal, my pen steady now. "They broke my locket, but not me," I wrote, my resolve a vow. The locket's destruction, Noah's insult. Your sacrifices were nothing. And Sophie's lies had pushed me to a breaking point, but I wouldn't crumble. I thought, did I lose them to greed or to my own silence? As I set the journal down, my eyes caught Noah's phone, left on the couch in his haste. A text to Sophie glowed, "She's on to us, fix it." My heart skipped, the words a glimpse into their scheme. What were they planning? Before I could process, my phone chimed with a bank email. Fraud alert. New account activity. My fingers froze, the cricket's song fading. What had Sophie done now? The patio light swayed outside, dim as my hope, but my resolve burned brighter, ready for the fight ahead. The bank's fraud alert chilled my spine, but Sophie's glare across the BBQ yard burned hotter. Was this my moment to end her lies? A week later, the suburban backyard pulsed with tension, checkered tablecloths flapping under a dusky Ohio sky. Grilled chicken sizzled, its smoky aroma mingling with the sharp notes of jazz, now tense and jagged, spilling from a speaker. The fire pit glowed, casting shadows on the gathered guests, their chatter a low hum. I, Evelyn Harper, 60, clutched the bank statement in my pocket, the ashes of my mother's shattered locket tucked beside it. Those ashes, all that remained of a trust Sophie and Noah had broken, fueled my courage to face them tonight. I stepped onto the grass, my blouse crisp, my resolve ironclad. The locket's destruction, Noah's cruel words. Your sacrifices were nothing. And Sophie's $10,000 theft had stripped away my hesitation. I wasn't just a mother. I was a woman demanding justice. My eyes scanned the crowd, landing on Sophie by the fire pit, her dark hair pulled tight, her smirk slicing through me. She whispered to Noah, her voice low, "She's delusional." My chest tightened, but I thought, not anymore. Lily darted to my side, her 15-year-old face bright with hope. "You look strong, Grandma," she whispered, her loyalty a lifeline. Sophie's daughter, neglected by her mother, loved my stories, and her faith in me steadied my nerves. Carla Mendoza, my best friend, 58, stood nearby, her silver bracelets glinting as she nodded, her encouragement rooted in her own reconciled estrangement. "You've got this, Evie," she mouthed, her loyalty fierce. James, 62, adjusted the grill, his gray eyes meeting mine with a new intensity. His real estate career had once blinded him to our family's cracks, but his guilt had forged a promise to stand by me. He squeezed my hand, his touch a quiet redemption. Noah lounged by a table, his leather jacket out of place, his greedy smirk hiding the gambling debts I'd once paid. The guests, neighbors, cousins, chatted, unaware of the storm brewing. A cousin raised a glass, calling for toasts. My moment came. I stepped forward, the bank statement crinkling in my pocket, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. "Sophie stole $10,000 from my savings," I said, loud and clear. "She called me useless, shoved me at my birthday." Gasps rippled through the yard, the jazz faltering. Sophie's face twisted and she yelled, "You're lying, Mom!" Noah chimed in, his voice dripping scorn. "You're irrelevant." Their words, a double blow, sparked deep indignation, my hands trembling with the weight of their betrayal. I held up the statement, its numbers stark. "This is proof," I said, my gaze locked on Sophie. Her eyes flickered, a crack in her defiance, but she doubled down, her voice shrill. "You're making it up," guests murmured, their shock palpable. James stepped beside me, his voice firm. It's true, he said, holding up his phone with the same statement. We've seen the records. His support, a shield against their venom, drew nods from the crowd. Carla moved closer, her nod sharp. Truth wins, Evie, she said, her words cutting through the tension. Lily clapped, her young voice breaking the silence. Go, Grandma. Her hope rallied a few guests, their murmurs turning to support. Sophie's face flushed, her hands balling into fists. For a moment she hesitated, her eyes darting to Noah, a flicker of doubt betraying her resentment. Then she snapped, her voice a scream. Get out! You're embarrassing us! She pointed to the gate, her expulsion a public wound, humiliating me before the crowd. My breath caught, Noah's taunt and Sophie's command echoing her earlier shove. I stood tall, my voice low but piercing. I'm not the one who should be ashamed. I turned, the ashes in my pocket a silent vow. This isn't over. And as I walked toward the gate, a guest, an older neighbor, whispered, Sophie's been spending big, new car trips. Her words, a glimpse into deeper fraud, quickened my pulse. What else had Sophie done? The gate creaked shut behind me, the jazz fading, the fire pit's glow a distant flicker. My resolve burned brighter, rooted in the pain of Sophie's cruelty and Noah's complicity. James caught up, his hand on my shoulder. You did right, Evie, he said, his redemption clear. I nodded, thinking, did I fight for my family or for my soul? At home, I sank into my armchair, the bank statement crumpled in my hand. My phone buzzed, Sophie's voicemail lighting the screen. Her voice hissed, You'll pay for this, Mom. My heart raced, her threat a shadow over the BBQ's fallout. What was her next move? The moonlight outside dimmed, but my resolve held, a beacon in the dark, ready for whatever came next. Sophie's voicemail, You'll pay for this, Mom, echoed with venom, but the bank's letter, waiting at the detective's office, cut deeper. How far had my daughter's betrayal gone? If you found out your own child had been scheming behind your back, would the betrayal or the silence hurt more? What I overheard next made everything click. If you're still here, drop a 6 in the comments, because the next part might sting in ways you don't expect. Morning light glared off the sterile desks in Detective Laura Bennett's office, the faint scent of a nearby coffee shop doing little to soften the cold space. I sat rigid, my hands clasped, the ashes of my mother's locket in a small vial in my purse, a reminder to protect my worth at any cost. Last night's BBQ expulsion, Sophie's scream, Get out, you're embarrassing us, and Noah's taunt still stung, but I, Evelyn Harper, 60, was resolute. My kitchen, where I'd soon return, its moonlight and soft jazz from a neighbor's window, felt like a distant sanctuary. Detective Bennett, a professional woman in her 50s, slid a letter across the desk, her eyes steady. Mrs. Harper, this shows Sophie opened a $15,000 account in your name, she said, her voice calm but grave. It's delinquent. I stared at the document, my social security number glaring back, Sophie's signature a forgery. My breath hitched and I whispered, She stole my identity. The words felt foreign, the betrayal slicing through years of love, packing her lunches, cheering her dreams. The $10,000 she'd already taken was theft. This was a violation of my very self. Outrage surged, my hands trembling as I thought, she took my name, my future. Bennett's pen scratched her notepad, her duty driving her focus. This is felony fraud, she said. We'll need your records to build a case. I nodded, my resolve a steel thread pulling me forward. Sophie's letter, her scream, her shove at my birthday, they all led here. I wasn't just fighting for money, I was fighting for Evelyn, the woman buried under decades of giving. I drove home, the Ohio suburbs quiet, Springs green blurred by my thoughts. In the kitchen, moonlight streamed through lace curtains, casting patterns on the oak table. James sat there, his gray hair mussed, his eyes heavy with guilt. At 62, his real estate career had once eclipsed our family, but now he faced me squarely. What did Bennett say? He asked, his voice low. I set the letter down, my voice steady. Sophie opened a $15,000 account in my name. It's fraud, James. His jaw clenched, and he stood, pacing. I failed you before, Evie, he said, his voice cracking. Not now. I'll testify. Do whatever you need. His redemption, born of regret, warmed me, and I touched his arm, a silent thanks. His support was a lifeline, knitting us closer after years apart. Carla Mendoza arrived, her silver bracelets jingling, her dark eyes soft but fierce. At 58, she'd rebuilt her life after her son's estrangement, and her empathy fueled her words. You're stronger than her lies, Evie, she said, settling at the table. She shared her story, years of silence from her son, then reconciliation through honesty. Facing the truth saved me, she said, her voice steady. Her encouragement, a mirror to my fight, pushed me forward. I nodded, clutching the vial of locket ashes, my resolve deepening. My phone chimed, an email from Bennett with account details, each transaction a stab. $15,000 in loans, spent on Sophie's failed boutique, trips, a car. The scope of her fraud, hidden for years, overwhelmed me, but my anger turned to purpose. I opened my journal, my pen fierce. She took my name, but not my fight, I wrote, my vow a shield. The jazz from the neighbor's window, soft and mournful, underscored my determination. As I closed the journal, my phone buzzed again. Sophie's text glared. You owed me for my graduation. Her justification, tied to that missed 2014 commencement, hinted at remorse beneath her resentment, but it fueled my outrage. She'd twisted her pain into theft, blaming me for her choices. I thought, did she steal my identity or did I reclaim mine? The moonlight dimmed, the jazz fading, but my resolve burned bright. James and Carla watched me, their silence supportive. What's next? James asked. Legal action, I said, my voice firm. Bennett's email, the letter, the statements, they were my arsenal. Sophie's betrayal, Noah's locket-smashing cruelty, their group chat lies, they'd pushed me to this edge, and I wouldn't falter. As Carla left, promising to check in, a flyer slipped under the door, its bright print catching the moonlight. The community center invited me to speak at their women's group. My heart skipped. Share my story publicly? The jazz swelled, a neighbor's window glowing, and I wondered if my voice could reach beyond this kitchen, beyond Sophie's venom. The flyer's words blurred, but my resolve held, ready for the next fight. The community center flyer called me to speak, but my heart demanded I rewrite my legacy. Could I let Sophie go for good? Morning light gleamed off the polished desk in Karen Walsh's attorney office, a faint coffee shop scent lingering from a nearby cafe. I sat upright, my purse holding the vial of my mother's locket ashes, now joined by the weight of my decision to burn away unappreciated roles. Last night's revelation, Sophie's $15,000 fraud in my name, had sealed my path. I, Evelyn Harper, 60, was liberated, ready to reclaim my worth in this quiet Ohio suburb. Karen, a professional woman in her 50s, adjusted her glasses, her pen poised over my will. You're redirecting all assets to a scholarship fund for women over 40? She asked, her voice steady, duty guiding her. I nodded, my hands calm. Excluding Sophie and Noah, I said. They've taken enough. My voice held no tremor, only conviction. The fund would lift women like me, mothers, caregivers, who'd given all and been forgotten. Karen's lips curved slightly. It's your choice, Evelyn. I signed the papers, each stroke a declaration of independence, my heart light with triumph over Sophie's betrayal, her expulsion at the BBQ, and Noah's locket-smashing cruelty. I left the office, spring's warmth brushing my cheeks, and drove to the community center. Afternoon light poured through its windows, illuminating folding chairs arranged in a circle, a table laden with apple pie slices, their cinnamon scent comforting. Women, mostly over 50, chatted softly, their faces etched with stories like mine. I clutched my family recipe book, its pages worn from years of feeding my children. Pies, casseroles, love they'd spurned. Today it would fuel my freedom. Carla Mendoza greeted me, her silver bracelets jingling, her dark eyes bright with pride. At 58, her own reconciled estrangement made her my fiercest ally. "You're shining, Evie," she said, hugging me tight. Her empathy, a mirror to my journey, warmed me. Lily Harper, my 15-year-old granddaughter, slipped in, her ponytail bouncing. "You're gonna rock this, Grandma," she said, her admiration a balm. Sophie's daughter, neglected by her mother, loved my stories, and her hope lifted me. I stood before the group, my voice clear. "My daughter stole my savings, called me useless," I began, my words raw but steady. "She shoved me, expelled me from her life. I'm done nurturing pain." The women leaned forward, some nodding, others teary. I held up the recipe book. This fed my family, but they forgot me. Today, I choose myself. Outside, by a small fire pit, I tossed the book into the flames, its pages curling black. "These recipes fed them," I said, the crackle loud in the silence. "Now they feed my freedom." Applause broke out, soft but fervent. My act of resistance, a triumph over Sophie's fraud and Noah's greed. Back inside, Lily approached, her hands clutching a handwritten letter. "This is for you, Grandma," she said, her voice shy. I unfolded it, her words piercing. "You're my hero. Mom doesn't see me either, but you do." My throat tightened, her strained bond with Sophie echoing my own pain. Her loyalty, rooted in love, was a new legacy. Carla raised a glass of lemonade, her voice warm. "To Evie's new chapter," the women echoed, "to Evie." I smiled, thinking, I'm enough. The pie's sweetness lingered on my tongue, the afternoon light soft. Sophie's absence, her voicemail threat, "You'll pay for this," and Noah's taunts faded, their betrayal no match for this moment. Carla's pride, Lily's letter, the women's nods, they were my family now, built on respect, not obligation. I thought, did I burn the past to free myself or to light my future? As we cleared the plates, a volunteer handed me an email printout from a local reporter. "We'd love to share your story." My pulse quickened. Go public. Let my voice reach further? The fire pit's embers glowed outside, the recipe book's ashes mingling with the lockets, and I wondered if my story could spark change beyond this room. The community center's hum faded, my liberation complete, but a new challenge waited. The reporter's email glowed on my screen, offering to share my story, but Lily's letter, tucked in my pocket, warmed my heart. Could my pain truly help others? My dining room hummed the next evening, warm lamplight casting a golden glow over the oak table, the aroma of fresh-baked bread filling our Ohio home. The recipe book's ashes, burned at the community center, had freed my voice, ready to echo beyond my family. I, Evelyn Harper, 60, felt liberated, my purpose clear, after rewriting my will and facing Sophie's fraud. The locket's ashes, mingled with those recipes, were a silent vow to live for myself now. James set out plates, his gray hair catching the light, his eyes soft with pride. At 62, his real estate career had once blinded him, but his redemption shone as he squeezed my hand. "I see your strength now, Evie," he said, his voice steady. His words, a bridge over years of distance, warmed me. Lily, my 15-year-old granddaughter, bounced in, her ponytail swinging. "You're unstoppable, Grandma," she said, grinning. Sophie's daughter, neglected by her mother, loved my stories, her support a light in my journey. Carla Mendoza, my best friend, 58, arrived with a bottle of sparkling cider, her silver bracelets jingling. "To new chapters," she toasted, her cheer rooted in our shared triumphs over family pain. Her friendship, forged through her own estrangement, lifted us all. We laughed over bread and salad, the table alive with stories, Lily's school play, Carla's garden, James's latest deal. My heart swelled, this chosen family a balm after Sophie's shove and Noah's locket-smashing cruelty. I thought, this is enough. The bread's warmth lingered on my fingers, my liberation deepening with each shared smile. The radio studio an hour later was a different world, microphones gleaming, coffee mugs scattered on a cluttered desk, the air buzzing with anticipation. The reporter, a curious woman in her 40s, adjusted her headset, her eyes bright. "Ready, Evelyn?" she asked. I nodded, my voice steady despite the flutter in my chest. The red on-air sign blinked, and I began. My daughter stole my savings, expelled me from her life. I changed my will to protect myself. My words, raw and clear, filled the studio, recounting Sophie's $15,000 fraud, her scream, "You're useless," and my stand at the BBQ. "I learned to love myself first," I said, my voice firm. "That's my legacy." The reporter leaned in, nodding, her curiosity amplifying my story. A caller's voice crackled through, a woman my age, her words trembling. "Your story's mine," she said. "My son took my money, called me a burden. You gave me courage." My breath caught, her pain mirroring mine, reinforcing my impact. I smiled, tears pricking, and said, "You're not alone." The connection, communal and profound, deepened my liberation, my voice reaching beyond my pain. Back home, I sat at the dining table, the lamplight soft, the bread scent fading. My phone buzzed, Sophie's name flashing. Her text read, "I heard the interview. I'm sorry. Can we talk?" My heart skipped, her remorse tied to her missed graduation pain, opening a crack for reconciliation. But her shove, her fraud, her expulsion, they loomed larger. I deleted the text, my fingers steady, and opened my journal. "My voice is mine now," I wrote, prioritizing my worth over her guilt. Sophie's betrayal had taught me to choose myself, a lesson I wouldn't unlearn. James and Lily's support, complete in their dinner warmth, closed their arcs, his redemption, her loyalty. Carla's cheer, her toast echoing, sealed our bond. The radio caller's story lingered, a micro-twist showing my reach, my pain a beacon for others. I thought, did I speak for myself or for every silenced mother? As I closed the journal, my eyes caught a new entry, written in a quiet moment earlier. I chose freedom. The words in my own hand glowed like the lamplight, a vow to live unbound. But Sophie's text, though deleted, whispered in my mind. Would she try again? The night outside was still, the suburbs hum a gentle backdrop, and I wondered if my freedom could withstand her next move. Sophie's apologetic text vanished from my screen, but the diner's coffee warmed my soul. Was I finally free? Morning sun flooded the vinyl booths of the diner on Monroe, a cozy Ohio spot where jazz hummed from a radio, blending with brewing coffee and pancake scents. The locket's ashes, the recipe book's cinders, gone, leaving my heart whole for new stories. I, Evelyn Harper, 60, sat alone, my mug steaming, my independence a quiet triumph. Doris, the waitress, her 50s etched in her smile, refilled my coffee. "Celebrating, hun?" she asked, her voice warm, resilience in her eyes. I tasted my scrambled eggs, their comfort grounding me, and said, "Freedom, inside and out." She nodded, our shared strength unspoken. Sophie's betrayal, her shove, her $15,000 fraud, faded, my severance from her a victory. The jazz softened, my liberation serene. I thought of my radio interview, my voice reaching women like Doris. Sophie's text, "I'm sorry," had stirred hope. But her expulsion, her scream, "You're useless," weighed more. I'd chosen myself, a sweetness richer than pancakes. The booth creaked as I leaned back, my heart full. Leaving a generous tip, I walked to the park, spring's breeze lifting my scarf. The pond where Lily once played sparkled. My granddaughter's letter, "You're my hero," rested in my purse, her loyalty a new family with James's redemption and Carla's friendship. I deleted Sophie's text for good, whispering, "I choose me." The pond's ripples carried my resolve, closing Sophie's chapter. At home, I opened my journal at my desk, morning light replacing last night's glow. I protected myself, I wrote, the entry sealing my freedom. I planned my next community talk, eager to share stories of worth, thinking, family lifts you up. James, Lily, Carla. They were mine now, built on love. Doris's nod lingered, a shared triumph. Sophie's fraud, Noah's greed. They'd shaped me, but no longer held me. My bonds with Lily and James redefined family. Sophie's absence, my arc's end. Did I lose a daughter or find my heart? The journal closed, the radio's jazz a faint hum. My story ended in peace, no shadows left to chase. The diner's coffee lingered on my lips, a quiet triumph after severing Sophie's hold on my heart, my freedom hard-won through tears and truth. I, Evelyn Harper, found my voice not in anger, but in the gentle strength of choosing myself. Family isn't just blood, it's those who see your worth, like Lily's loyal hugs or James's redeemed support. In life, love demands boundaries, teaching us to forgive without forgetting, to hold tight to those who lift us while letting go of those who wound. By sharing our stories, we heal, weaving new bonds from old scars. If my journey touched you, please share your own thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters, and I'd love to hear it.